Question. Deborah, good to see you. Juanita Nelson, good morning to you. Eric Abbott, Terry Wilson. Feel free to put your city in there too. I'd like to see what city you guys are coming from. Ginger Garrett, good morning, Ginger. And that makes me think about Gilligan's Island. Natasha Phoenix, good morning. Henry Irvin, Timberly Davis, good morning, Timberly. Lenny out of North Carolina. Sharon out of, I didn't see where you're from. I could keep North Dakota. Ooh. If you are the one black person in here from North Dakota, then my heart goes out to you because I heard that that is a place that is awfully white and awfully cold. And no disrespect, but that's just what I heard. That's what I heard. Let's see. I see Kendrick from Fort Myers and Terrence out of Skokie, Illinois. Royal out of Compton. Erica, good morning, Erica. And let's see, I see Albuquerque. I didn't see who was from Albuquerque, but I love Albuquerque. Nice place. Akila, good morning, from Savannah, Georgia, but living in Philly. Oh, Philly. Well, you guys know that Philly is where they are hosting the Get Money Fest on the 18th of May, and it's a basically like a financial literacy and arts festival. That's the best way to describe it. Jay Ortiz is the mastermind behind it. He's a great rapper who also has a strong belief in financial literacy, and y'all know I'm down for that. Y'all know I'm down for the idea of a I will support any artist who wants to use the power of hip hop to make our people better as opposed to making them worse. So Jay and his mother Michelle, they run the Urban Youth Racing School, and they invited me out there, and I was really happy to participate and to be involved with that. So I'm going to be out there May 18th, and the coolest part about this event is that this event is free. Like all you ain't got to pay money, you just got to pay attention. Now I think that it's standing room only though, so I think that the VIP tickets give you like a little bit more comfort and stuff like that, but and you get to kind of meet and talk to the speakers and everything, but it's free if you want to come in and hang out and network. And they blended basically the arts, like they have the artists and the fashion folks and all the people that are into the music scene, mostly in the Philadelphia New York City area, kind of in that tri-state area. And they added a really great financial literacy aspect that I really have a lot of respect for. So like Michael Edwards, who's a banker and forex expert, is going to be there, along with a Madam President will be there. A lot of great people. So if you want to join us, come hang out May 18th, totally free. I can send you guys the link, but I think the website was getmoneyfest.com. Or if you go to my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. You can find the link there, or on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. So feel free to join us at the Get Money Fest. So we going to get money. You know what that makes me think about too? When I put up my post, I played that song. Remember that song? Money, power, respect is the key to life. Money, power, respect. Have you eaten right? Money, power, respect. Money, power. Remember that? And that was a great song. DMX and the Locks, and I think Lil Kim might have been on there. So, but I like that song a lot. I remember listening to that in my 20s. And I remember and it's funny because back then my wife and I were friends back then, and people make fun of me because they think I was friend zoned at that time. But actually, to be honest with you, I wasn't ready to get married when I was that age. I'm glad I kind of waited a little bit. But anyway, so we would me and my wife a long time ago, back when we were friends before we ever thought we'd ever end up getting married. And I'm gonna tell you, if you ever want to have fun in life, marry like your best friend. If you marry your best friend, it gives you an extra cushion to marriage. Like when you have those days where you're getting on each other's nerves, and believe me, every married couple has days where you like I don't know how much I want to hang around with you right now. I think I need to be in the other room for about 5 years. Like you have those days. It just happens, right? And so get ready for that. If you do it, it ain't like dating. Like dating is like cupcake stuff. That's easy. It's like, oh, you cute. Like you cute too. Marriage is a whole nother level, dog. Let me just tell you. Anyway, but the cool thing about marrying your best friend is that when you're not really like happy with each other as romantic partners, you're still friends. So you can still walk in and crack a joke, tell a story, and you can lean on the friendship. That gives like just this other layer. So I would encourage everybody to kind of think about that. I know people don't want to marry their friends, but I don't know. I kind of think there's something to that. Because I definitely know we got the marriage thing wrong. I definitely believe that we have the whole marriage and family thing, like we don't have it figured out, because if we had it figured out, the divorce rate wouldn't be so high. The rate of baby mama isms and baby daddyism is at an all-time high, and I personally think that we should listen to each other. And so that's just my 2 cents. But anyway, and if you want to know why I talk about this kind of thing, it's because that does link back to wealth. My wife is part of my financial backup system. It is really nice when you are in a situation where when you don't really feel like paying for something, the other person says, "Don't worry, I paid for it." You know, or you take a trip and and my wife says, "Oh, I already paid for the hotel. I already got the Airbnb. I got the rental car." And you're like, "Okay, thank you." Right? And so really, I really think that we got to really kind of rethink sort of how we process all these things, because I know sometimes people don't like that. They don't like the idea that because of what black women have gone through, that they come really prepared. They come really educated. Not all of them, not everybody. Y'all know that don't include everybody. But we're gonna talk about the good side. They show up educated, prepared, successful. And there's something great about that. When you have a teammate that's able to kind of handle some things like that, and you can show up as an adequate teammate. And I saw something where this lady did a video. I'll put it on my Instagram. I think my Instagram is hilarious and interesting, but maybe everybody doesn't think that way. But it's Dr. Boyce Finance. And I find these little clips and I just put them up there. And there was a video of this really pretty lady who was basically explaining why she lets her man lead, because he has wisdom and the wisdom is beneficial. And of course, all the men are like, "Yeah, we love that. Go, queen, go." But they're really saying it because she's just real cute and she's saying what they want to hear. And I get that, right? But it was nice. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. We should be leading. But then and I did agree with that. Actually, I do like the idea of us letting our partners lead in certain situations. But then I said, at the same time, though, leadership is kind of a two-way street, right? Leadership is, and I mentioned this yesterday, that I don't think we spend enough time meditating on the solemn opportunity, power, and responsibility that comes with running a family, that comes with heading a household, that comes with being a leader in a space, right? And I think that men and women, we're both leaders in our own way. And I said, if you want someone to kind of want you to lead, you really have to show up prepared to lead. And leadership requires a certain level of consciousness. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. And an unconscious person, or an immature person, or an unprepared person, or an unstrategic person, or an unintelligent person is not going to be an adequate leader for any particular space. You're just not. An undisciplined person cannot lead. So really, I just think about some of the uncles I had, and I remember growing up, and I remember they couldn't even leave me, and I was 9 years old. I said, I ain't following that Negro because he gonna get me killed. I'm not getting in the car with you. I'm not going out with you. I'm not hanging around you. When they sitting there, you take some guy that doesn't read books, uh, is holding some weed in one hand and a liquor bottle in the other, and trying to lead some other people. I'm not gonna get lead through life by a drunk driver. I'm just not. And I think that becomes the challenge of leadership. I think that every yin has a yang, every yang has a yin. This is one of the core concepts of economics and finance, actually, but I believe it applies to life. And what I mean by that is, when you ask for your yin, you have to think about, well, what's the yang? What's the yang to my yin? So I say, hey, I need you to let me lead, because I feel that as a man or as a woman or whatever, I have these rights to lead, and every relationship is different. But so I want to lead. Well, that's the yin. That's the ask. But the yang is, have I prepared myself to lead? Have I prepared myself to lead? And the unfortunate reality that some of us don't want to consider is that there are people who demand to lead who are not equipped or prepared to lead. Like a pastor who says, "I want to lead this church." Then people are going to look at you and look at your life and look at the way you carry yourself and say, "Are you ready to lead?" So if you are an undisciplined man who ain't following the Bible on any level, who's trying to sleep with every lady in the front row and doing all these shenanigans that are embarrassing to the church and embarrassing to God, then ain't nobody gonna trust you to lead their church. You can't lead. You're not even connected. You're people want to be led by somebody that they feel is on a higher plane than they are. Am I right? Tell me if you get what I'm saying. People want to be led by people that they feel like, okay, you got something I don't have. Like if I'm a basketball player, I'll let Michael Jordan lead me, or LeBron or something, because he's good and he can win championships and he's a great player. They're not going to get lead. A basketball player is not going to get led by an inferior player. So in life, I think you have players, you have superior players, players that are really achieving, people that have really done the work, that are really disciplined, that are shown up ready with a plan. They don't just have a dream. See, a vision and a goal, a vision without a plan is basically a hallucination. So you got a lot of hallucinating people out here. They got big dreams, but ain't got no plan to accomplish those dreams. Stop it. Just kill your big, just go ahead and throw it out the window. Because if you got a dream without a plan, then that's not real. That's just a dream. That's just an hallucination. You're seeing things. You're seeing things that the universe does not have in store for you because you have not done the work required to make a plan that is going to tether you to that dream. You have to have a plan that is going to connect you to that outcome that you're trying to reach. You cannot have a bridge to nowhere. You can't say, I want to go 100 feet across a canyon, and you've got nothing connecting the two sides of the canyon. So the plan is really important, and not just having the plan, but executing the plan. And I believe, here's what I believe. Here's what I truly believe in general. If you want to just get my 2 cents, again, I hope it's okay if I share this. My 2 cents on leadership in general in any space, not just in relationships, but in life, is that when you show up and you are really ready, when you show up and you're on level 10, people will naturally follow you. People will naturally, I don't have to walk in and say, well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I demand that I get to lead financially. I demand that I get to be the teacher because I should be the leader because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Y'all supposed to follow me because I said so. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. You know what I do? I just show up and I do my thing and I just behave naturally. And then people say, oh, he knows a couple things. Let me follow him. Some people don't. Some people just, they say, oh, screw that guy. I'm not listening to him. That's okay. But then there's some people who say, okay, he knows something. He's been doing this for 30 years and he's taught at different universities and he has all these credentials. And so that naturally comes out. I don't have to ask you for permission to be my best. I just show up as the best version of myself I can be, and that prepares you to lead. So I believe the same thing is true in life and in relationships. I think that when I show up with the children and my wife, and I show up as a man, I try to focus on basic things to try to be a better man. I don't drink and smoke because I don't believe in drinking and smoking around children. Because I think that causes you to be less of a man than you're supposed to be. It causes you to do things that you might not normally do. I try my best to not be abusive toward others. I try my best to be thoughtful about everything and considerate and understanding of the people that I'm expecting to follow me. And what naturally happens is that over time, when I connect with them, when I understand what's on the mind of the 13-year-old because I've been observing her behavior and what she's interested in, then what happens is she naturally will engage in the reciprocity that lets me kind of lead her as the bonus dad, right? And I had to earn that because I don't have that biological thing that allows me to say, you must listen to me because I'm your daddy, girl. No, I married a woman that had kids, and it was a blessing. It was a complete blessing, but I had to earn the right to lead. I could not just show up and say, do what I say because of who I am. You can't. I don't think that works, right? So I think that applies to almost everything. But here's the beautiful part about it. I think when you show up and you're just adequately equipped to be a great partner for other people, that opens up your economic possibilities to the highest level. When you show up prepared to be an excellent teammate, then other people will naturally want to be your teammate because who doesn't want to be teammates with a person who knows how to score a lot of points? Think about it. If you play basketball, who wouldn't want to play with the guy who can score 40, 50 points a game? You're going to win every championship. You're going to get every trophy. That's a wonderful feeling. So when you work on yourself, when you work on being the best version you can be, like you sat down and you read the books on how to be a good man in a relationship, how to be a good woman in a relationship. You listen to men, like what do men want, and or you listen to women, what do women really want from a good man, and you do all these things. I think then good people will want to be connected to you because they're going to say, okay, this person has it figured out. They've done the work. Just because some people demand seats that they're not qualified for. They just do. They rather than earn it, they'd rather demand it or complain about it. Or they say it reminds me of when I talked to a young lady who was detached from her father. Her father went to prison when she was 2, and he shows up in her life when she's 22. He has not really talked to her for almost 20 years, and then he just shows up and says, "I'm your father. I demand this and I demand that." And I remember thinking that is so weird. That is so strange. This little girl's looking at him like, "I don't even know you, man." Like you, you ain't, but they always say before you correct, you must connect. He hadn't even connected. And I thought, gosh, that is such a strange way to try to get your daughter to do what you want her to do. Is say, well, because I'm your father, because I'm this, because I have this title. You know what that reminds me of? Let me tell you a true story. True story. My father told me about when they were in Vietnam, and there were these college boys that would show up on the battlefield who because they went to college, they would be brought into the military as sergeants or lieutenants or commanders or whatever, right? So they would come in with this authority that was granted to them by the government, but they had not earned the authority. They had not earned the trust of the men. The men did not know them. But they were like, I am your commanding officer. And my father said that he hung out with a bunch of other black dudes that smoked a lot of dope and stuff. And he said some of those so-called commanders would go out into the field with the soldiers that they were supposed to be leading, and they would not come home because a bullet might accidentally end up in the back of their head. Not to say that he participated in any of these activities, but this happened on a regular basis. So I believe that when you talk about, if you want to talk about leadership, work on yourself. If you are naturally outstanding at what you do and you are really putting in the work to be the best you can be, I believe people will want to be your teammate and people will nominate you. They'll beg you to be the lead. In fact, the best leaders I've seen are the people who are reluctant leaders. They're not the people who say, I want to lead, I want to lead, right? That shows a deficiency in your character, in my opinion. That shows that you have a deficit. You need validation of some sort. You haven't risen up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you remember, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the very top is self-actualization. Below that is the need for attention, the need for love, the need for esteem, the need to go, get girls, make money, all these other lower level, lower vibrational, lower consciousness needs. Well, the people that become the best leaders that I've seen are the people that reach the Martin Luther King status of self-actualization, where Martin Luther King did not lead the civil rights movement because he was looking to bag more chicks. Martin Luther King, he didn't lead the civil rights movement because he was trying to be famous. He didn't lead the civil rights movement because he trying to get money. He didn't do any of that. He led the civil rights movement because he was connected to something bigger than himself. That made him the perfect leader because he understood one important rule. Malcolm understood it. A lot of people understood it. He understood that leadership was really service. That really, as the leader, that means you really are lifting that group up on your back, and you must be prepared to serve at the lowest level if necessary in order to do the best job that you possibly can. So just do the work, and you'll find the teammates. And then you'll be equipped and prepared to lead, whether you're talking about a family, lead a business, or lead an investment group, or anything that you choose to do in your life. Lead your children. I think that doing that work, it really goes a long way. So I just want to encourage you to do that. And a lot of you, I'm really proud of you because you're doing the work every day. When we show up every morning for financial consciousness training, I guarantee you another really interesting thing about money is power. You probably have heard this, and I'm going to say it because it's true. Money is power. Money is power. So, because you are among the most financially literate and most financially educated people in your family, I know that you are. If you've come to this class more than 10 times, you are probably the most financially literate person in your family. Because I know what I'm doing and I know where you're going to be after you sit and listen to me for a while, because these are not ideas that are common. Most universities don't teach this stuff. Okay. And so because you're already one among the most financially literate in your family, eventually that's going to translate to you and or your children becoming the most financially successful in your family. And one thing about money is that money is very powerful. The white man uses money all the time to drag black folks around by our noses, to get us to do ridiculous things, to get us behave like buffoons, to just clown ourselves into oblivion because they use that economic power to control our behavior. Well, the truth is that when you get money, when you become successful, when you have money, power, and respect, those three things are all going to come together at the same time. The money will come with the power and the respect, and you will be able to make things happen just by snapping your fingers. Somebody will come to you and they're going to identify. Everybody can identify the person, the cousin who's got the most money. Give me a yes if you already know what I'm talking about, because some of y'all already got money. I know you got money because I see what y'all doing, like in the Prime program and all that, how much money you're making every week. People can smell when you are doing well and everybody else is struggling. So when they smell that you're doing well, what do? They come to you with their problems and they say, hey, I need help. They come to you like the Godfather. Remember the movie The Godfather? And when the Godfather sat at the wedding, at his daughter's wedding, and people would just come in and take their head off and, Godfather, I need help with the blah, 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 blah. And he would sit back and say, I don't know, kiss the ring, my son. Right. And they would kiss the ring, and then he would go help solve problems for people that he was where he because he was the steward of the community. He was somebody that people looked up to. Well, part of that was because he had money, power, and respect. So when you get that money, you don't have to go ask for power and respect. When I had money, I didn't have to ask. When I was single, I didn't have to go really work that hard to go on a date because I could take you to a $200 restaurant and think nothing of it. That gives a natural, easy respect. I don't have to fight for it. If I when I had money, when I would talk to young people that wanted something from me financially, they would listen to my advice because they know that if you don't listen, if you don't internalize what I'm saying to you, then no support is coming. I'm not investing in things I don't believe in. When you have money, you are able to open doors and have possibilities that other people can only dream of, and that's an opportunity for you. That's an opportunity for you, because what happens is when you show up with some resources. And I'm not just talking about just the money. I'm talking about all the other forms of wealth that are already in your life. When you show up with resources, people will bow to that. People will respond to that. People will you have an awesome amount of power where you can shape the world into a certain way, and you have to use that power responsibly. And this is where consciousness also comes into play, because I've seen people with a lot of economic power who've used it in really terrible ways to oppress and abuse people. And I think that that's highly inappropriate. So just keep that in mind. Money, power, and respect do go together. They do connect. And I encourage you to get all of that because I want you to have all the power. I want you to be the one that goes into that family because you and I, we're the same, right? We're connected. We all believe in a lot of the same ideas. So I want those ideas everywhere. I want us to show up with not just the great idea, but also the resources to implement that idea. And if people don't like it, then guess what? They won't get a piece of whatever pie you're controlling. And I want the power and the money to be in the hands of the right people, intelligent Black people. If we had as much money as the rappers, if we had as much money as the rappers and the basketball players and everything else, imagine what kind of community we would have. Imagine what kind of community we're going to have once the 40, 50-year plan it kicks in, where we have the 50-year plan, Project 2070, of our children and grandchildren being among the wealthiest and most powerful people on the planet. Imagine what kind of community we will have when you got billionaires and eventually trillionaires in the Black community that believe in certain core values that relate to family, education, and just making our children safe, making our world better for our people. Imagine what's going to happen when there's money behind those ideas. It's going to go a long way. It's going to be very powerful. And this is what I see. And the reason I also see it is because I've seen it in real life. I've already seen it happen. I see it happen in my space. When I have resources to do certain things, and I sit with people that understand what we're trying to do here, and we're all on the same page, we literally have that ability to shape that space in a certain way, and it becomes a very powerful reality. For example, a lot of you will come to the All Black National Convention, and you've told me you've never seen a space like this. Well, that didn't happen by accident. That was by design. That was by design. And it's beautiful because we have enough resources where we can block out the nonsense. We don't, do you know how many people I've turned away? There was a millionaire that wanted to come to the. I told him no. I said I don't want you here. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many. I don't care if you made $100 million. You're a piece of. You're a terrible person. Stay away. I don't want you coming because where you're coming from. Your ideas, your behavior is inappropriate. That is not what we want here, right? So the ability to just say no to the things you don't want and to say yes to the things you do want is an incredible amount of freedom that I really want everybody in here to experience. And so anyway, that's one of my first thoughts for today. I hope that's okay. I hope it's okay if I share that. I hope that helps you. Okay, so first thing I want to do is remind everybody that if you so we talked about the Get Money Fest, and then also the summer's coming, and I mentioned to you guys that we have financial flashcards for kids at drboycebooks.com. I think summertime is a great time for you to get your kids ready for the future. So feel free to share the flashcards with them. And my advice to you, or one thing you may want to consider, is possibly offering them like a couple of dollars, like maybe $20 or $30, to learn all the terms on the flashcards. If you give them a little bit of an economic incentive, and then you're teaching them a couple of important lessons. One important lesson is you're teaching them that in this world, you get paid for what you know. You don't get paid for how much work you do. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that you get paid for work, and that's not true. Remember, Rockefeller at one time, he said, if you spend all your time at work, how do you have time to make any money? And so literally, people that spend all their time at work don't make the money that they deserve. They end up working the hardest and getting paid the least. So I want your child to get paid for knowledge. I want them to get in the habit of getting paid for what they put in their brain and not just what they do with their body. You selling your body is not just something. It's not the thing that should be done by Black people that want to be successful. If you're going to sell something, sell what's in your brain. So long story short, I would encourage you to consider, if you want to do a fun project with your kids this summer, go through some of the terms and flashcards, maybe have some sort of agreement where you can give them some sort of compensation for learning the terms and impressing you with those terms, and then maybe introduce them to some of the things we talk about in terms of stock market investing. We did that event on stock market investing for beginners on how to basically get started. A child can also go through this. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have a link to the recording in front of me, but if you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, they can connect you to all those resources. And of course, you guys know our Black Business School for Children is at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Okay, so let me give you another thought that I had today that I wanted to sort of express and explore. And this is just sort of, I don't even know which direction it's going to go, but I thought it would be worth discussing in financial consciousness training. Did anybody see where the Griot owned by Byron Allen, it was having some problems. They were having some layoffs, and they were laying off. At least from what I saw, it looked like from what I saw that two of the casualties were Mark Lamont Hill and the lady Ebony, what's her name, who said that she wouldn't date a bus driver. I don't know if you remember that. There was a big conversation about that. And my wife and I actually discussed that a little bit because I know Ayanna Van Zandt had a big issue with the fact that she said she wouldn't date a bus driver. Ebony K. Williams, that was her name. She's a pretty lady. She's smart. She's an attorney, and she said she would date a bus driver if he owned the bus. And a lot of people got offended by that. I didn't get offended by it because I kind of feel like people have a right to choose whatever they want. I don't think, I think you can have whatever standard you want. I mean, at the same time, every restraint that you, and this is a mathematical fact, every restraint that you put on your quest to optimize something, like every time you try to optimize, like if you say I'm trying to pick the best partner, every restraint you put out there, everything you put on your list minimizes and reduces the pool of potential applicants, right? So every constraint has a cost. That's a mathematical concept. We used to study that in mathematics. When I was teaching math at University of Kentucky, is we would do equations, and every time you put a constraint on there, it would restrict your available opportunity. So what that translates to is that when you talk about something like dating, every time I say, well, like if I say, well, she has to be this tall, or she has to look like this, or she has to make this much money, every constraint reduces the pool of people. So I got to make sure that the benefits of the constraint outweigh the cost. So anyway, with that being said, though, so Ebony and Mark are among two of the people that were being dumped. I think they were dropping the whole podcast division or something like that. That's what I read. I was sort of reading through it. And this wasn't just the griot. This was all the way across Byron Allen's entire media empire, which was really interesting to me. I think at the Weather Channel, there were some people that had been with the Weather Channel for 20 or 30 years who were being released and stuff like that. Now, the reason I brought this up in economic consciousness training was twofold, and I'm going to try to remember what both points were because I was thinking about this on the treadmill. The first thing is that I think that what's going on with the griot, again, first of all, I don't know if this is the end of the griot or the death of the griot. I personally wonder or think there's probably like a restructuring, right? And what this kind of shows is that even the people that we think are on top of the world, the billionaires that are just doing really well. I don't even know if Byron's actually a billionaire. They listed his net worth as less than a billion, like 730 million, but who cares, right? He's a wealthy guy. He's doing well, and I'm happy for him for that. But it shows that everybody, that investing is an up and down thing. That's the point. Investing is not a venture where everything's always sunny all the time. Sometimes being an investor literally almost makes you regret the day that you were born. Sometimes being the investor or being the boss involves a cost that is so high that it's almost impossible for you to sleep that night. And so one of the things I want us to kind of consider as we sort of train our kids and each other on what it means to be the owner, the boss, the controller of things, is to understand that there is a price to be paid for that. One of the benefits of being, say, the employee is All you got to worry about is doing your job and then you'll get your paycheck. The only big fear that you may have is that one day your company may not be loyal to you and may let you go, or and also that they're going to put a restriction on how much money you can make and how high you can climb up the ladder. That becomes very frustrating. I think that's very frustrating, especially for Black people, because we have to deal with things like racism. But the benefit of that, though, is that when you get done working, you can just go home and it's over, right? You don't have to think about it. You don't have to keep it with you, whatever. Most entrepreneurs I know, most investors that I know are people who are pretty much thinking about their business all the time. Every time I have a business, I compare it to having a child. And if you think about being a parent, uh, is there tell me yes or no, is there like a 9 to 5 schedule for parenting? Like, is parenting something you just do Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday the children just go into like some sort of hyper chamber where they just go to sleep and wake up on Monday? Does it stop at 5 p.m. at night? Does it just, or does it have certain like easy like rules and restrictions where you know exactly what's going to happen all the time? No, it's that's not parenting, right? Parenting is something where you have to have a consistent consciousness, a parental consciousness of that child all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the most part. You do. You may not be with the child all the time, but the child is always somewhere in your consciousness, right? You're always, even when the baby is with the sitter, you're always, where the baby is. Like, it's not like someone says, well, where's your baby at? I don't know, he out there somewhere. Like, you don't know that, right? Now, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and there was some times where when I was about 9 or 10 where our mamas didn't know where the hell we were. But still, though, in general, that child consciousness, you're always tethered psychologically and emotionally to the well-being of your child. And I think being an entrepreneur is very similar to that. Being an investor is similar to that. You may not always be working, but you always kind of have it in your head, and you're not living within this sort of structure of hours and Monday through Friday. I think that whole 9 to 5 Monday through Friday mindset is what they give us in public school. I think public school was designed to train us to think in a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday sort of structured mindset. And I think that does inhibit us. It limits your creativity and your freedom. Public schools don't teach you how to become a millionaire. Public schools don't teach you how to become economically independent. Public schools don't even teach you how to be financially literate and financially responsible. They don't. They don't. They don't. They show you how to play your position in the American economy, which in your position is to be a consumer, to rent things, and to also work for other people. That's what you do. That's your job. And it's the job of the stewards of capitalism, the corporate champions, the corporations, etc., and the investors. It's their job to give you things to buy and to give you things to rent and to give you places to go work. That's why, for example, when they talk about Black economics in any election, the first thing they talk about is jobs. The first thing they talk about is Black unemployment. That's the first thing. There's not very much conversation about Black people being the stewards of capital, right? And this was when, and it took me a long time to figure that out. That's when I realized, I said, oh my God, integration was, it was kind of a hoax. They didn't integrate us because they liked us. They integrated us because they need more consumers. They needed more employees. They wanted to grow the size of the economy. Hey, that's why they're bringing all the immigrants across the border. You got more people now that they can buy stuff and come work for you, right? So you get in a bigger labor supply. A bigger labor supply increases the value of any economy for the most part. So effectively, in order for you to understand the rules of being a boss or whatever, an investor, a leader, you're gonna have to get that on your own. You're gonna have to get that on your own. You're going to basically have to go to the next level of your economic consciousness and get that training and give that training to your kids in a special sort of space that's really focused on that, because that's not really what's going to happen in the public school system. So let's go back to Byron Allen. So Byron Allen is clearly a boss. He's a great leader of his company. I have a lot of respect for this man for what he's accomplished. I've always been really curious about his business model, though. I've really been curious about whether or not his model is actually working the way it appears to be working. I've always wondered about that. I think he's good at raising money and he has great access to capital. And that's why he was able to have serious conversations about placing a 20, $30 billion bid, or it was a 10 or 20 billion. It was some massive amount of money to buy I don't know, was it Paramount? I think it was Paramount. Yeah, I think Paramount Global's for sale. And then he talked about buying BET, which actually Paramount owns BET. And there were some other conversations he had, but a lot of times those were pretty much just conversations. I never really saw anything to say that the bids were taken seriously or that he was able to execute on those bids, but he's been able to execute on a lot of other things. And he has a lot of these media properties that are connected to linear television. Like he has these interesting platforms like Cars.tv and Pets.tv, which says to me that he's maybe got these entities so that he can sell it to the advertisers, right? If you're going to pet companies and or dog food companies, you say we've got pets.tv, here we'd like to sell you advertising. I think that that's pretty much the model that makes it work. I think the challenge though is that linear TV is changing. People are cord cutting a lot. And I don't know what his relationship is with the streaming services. And I really always wonder if we have to be a little more creative in terms of how we think about the creation of black media anyway. When I looked at the Griot, I saw this really professional news organization that was second to none. I really did. I have a lot of respect. Even the people that me and Mark Hill have not agreed on a lot of things over the years, but I think he's smart and I respect the professionalism of how they had everything laid out. But then the other part of me would see that and say, gosh, that looks so expensive. That looks so expensive. I wonder if that's profitable. They're spending a lot of money. Are they making the money back? And I don't know if we think about that enough when we do things that are based on creative work or entertainment or media or anything, right? I'll see a filmmaker that'll go and spend his last dollar making a movie, and I'll be thinking, did you have a plan on how you're going to get that money back? Like, what is your plan? You put out $100,000 to make this movie, which still makes it a cheap movie. But making films is expensive. Like and I just never, I was like, no, I'm not spending three, four, $500,000 for a movie. That's what people would say to me. They'd be like, oh, it's going to cost 500,000 to do this. Like, no, it's not. I'm not spending that money. What can you do for 25? Because I know how to get back 25K or 30K, right? Because we got to live within our means. Because white folks ain't gonna write us no checks no time soon. So we're not gonna go out there like that. And long story short, here's my point: is that basically with media is changing. I think that when you're building black entities, I think that the business models have to be changed. I don't think that we are going to have a lot of success building black owned businesses if they're simply like the black version of a white business. I move on to, for example, the financial challenges of HBCUs. Last I checked, a lot of HBCUs are struggling financially, can't pay all the bills, just always behind, stuck financially. And my thought is that running a university in the traditional format is very expensive. It's very costly. You're paying for buildings and you're paying the professors all this money, and you're trying to do things the same way the white university across town is doing stuff. And unfortunately, you're playing the game on an unbalanced playing field. You're using the exact same model, same structure, you have the same skill, but you don't have the same resources. And so I believe that when you have fewer resources, you've got to be creative in terms of how you structure your entity. And so this is where I believe grandma wisdom comes into play. Like our grandmas were smart because our grandmas knew how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. My grandmother, Felicia, rest her soul, our Panther logo is named after my grandmother. That's why I take her with me wherever I go. She was a single mom that had four kids that never made more than $20,000 a year, that never ever once had a financial problem her whole entire life. I never saw her have a financial problem. I never saw her borrow money from anybody. I never saw her say, "Oh my gosh, it's so hard to be a single mom." She just made it happen. I saw people that made four times more money than my grandma coming to her to borrow money. And I was like, "How the hell does this happen?" Well, it's because my grandma had her own economic model based on the circumstances that she was dealing with. She played the hand that God dealt her, not the hand that she wished that she had dealt if she was a white woman. She knew she wasn't a white woman. She knew she wasn't a man. She knew she was a single black mother that was born in the 1930s, and she had to figure it out. Do you understand? And there's a type of genius there that you're not going to get on any college campus anywhere. And when I tell you how much I respect that genius, let me just explain it to you. When I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I had to write an article for Essence magazine, and about financial stuff, and I called my grandma and I said, "Can you give me a list of your rules, your financial rules that you follow that have allowed you to survive in a space where a lot of people can't?" And she had a list. She wrote down the list and she sent it to me. I still have it somewhere. I interviewed my grandmother for 2 or 3 hours just to get her perspective on things because I respect that. And so what I'm going back to, let's go back to the whole conversation with the griot. Um, I look at that and I wonder, okay, so the layoffs may just mean that they're just making adjustments, right? This is possible. Companies do this, right? So I don't think it's like an emergency situation. It's not a failure. Mark Zuckerberg was having layoffs. Google just laid off hundreds of people. So don't let's not get into this whole like, oh, they failed because they're laying all these people off. No, they're adjusting, they're adapting. And that's what you have to do as a business owner. Just so you know, when you start your business or you become an investor, just know you're always going to be adjusting. Those of you that are in the Prime program, you're running your little businesses. You got your stocks and you're selling the options. Every week you're making adjustments because the market conditions change. You have to be able to adapt. That's another important part of being a business owner that I want you to keep in mind as you move forward. However, I do wonder if there's something about us as Black people not respecting our own wisdom in terms of realizing that maybe our economic realities have to be formed in a way that is not consistent with anything that we've seen from white folks. That's what I'm saying. So for example, when people say, this is great, this is capitalism, or the solution for Black people is capitalism, I say, no, I'm not a capitalist. Why do I have to be a capitalist in order to appreciate the value of wealth and money and free enterprise? I see lots of flaws in capitalism. Capitalism is what's going to destroy America when, not if, when it finally goes down. It's going to be capitalism. Capitalism is why your national debt is way too high. Capitalism is why half the world hates our guts, and because we're sending money over to other countries so they can blow up little children. Capitalism is the reason that you have your wealth disparities. Capitalism is why you have places like Kensington and Philadelphia where you got drug addicts slumped over, half asleep all day because they can't even get treatment because your society doesn't put money into things like this. Capitalism is why your kids are coming out of school stupid because you don't invest in your children because they don't pay taxes. Capitalism is the reason why your government's so corrupt because they've been bought out by the corporations. I could keep going. I could keep going. I could keep going. Capitalism, generally speaking, a hardcore commitment to capitalism is, in my view, not healthy at all. You don't have to agree with this, but in my view, hardcore capitalism is not healthy. That is not an adequate solution for the Black community. However, I do think that a commitment to free enterprise is very helpful for us. I think that a commitment to building businesses that we own and control is very healthy, even if we're not making all the money in the world right away. I think that that land ownership is important. I think that family businesses are critical for the protection of our children. My child's much safer if they're working for me than they are if they're working for a racist white man. Do you agree? Do we agree on that basic statement that if my child works for me, they're going to be safer than if they're working with a bunch of people that hate their guts and they're going to cause all kinds of mental health issues and have my child drinking herself to sleep every night because she's so stressed out on her job? So this goes deeper than just money. But this also means that, in my view, the Black economy is going to have to be different from the white economy. It can't just be a white version of the Black economy. Let me give you an example of some of the stupid rules that apply to other people that do not apply to us. Has anybody ever heard this? Tell me if you've ever heard this. A lot of y'all went to college and stuff. Did you ever hear anybody say that it takes 3 to 5 years before a business becomes profitable? That you have to run a business 3 to 5 years before it becomes profitable? How many of y'all heard that? Has anybody ever heard that statement before? I heard that and immediately I said, who can sit around and lose money for 3 or 4 years and then eventually become profitable? Who has that kind of wealth? Who's sitting on whose pockets are that swole that you can really sit and lose hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars and then say, oh, we finally became profitable after losing $8 million. I don't know. I've never to this day met a single person who could just lose money for years before they become profitable. I don't. Most black owned businesses I know, you got about 3 to 5 months to figure it out. If you ain't making money in 3 to 5 months, then that savings is going to dwindle away. Those credit cards will be maxed out, right? So you have to really restructure how you think about your business model. When you're leaving the corporate plantation, you're going to have a quickie plan to get profitable as quick as you can. So, or at least cash flow positive or something, so you can get those bills paid, because you don't have the same margin of error. You don't have the same economic cushion as other people. But at the same time, I could tell you stories about companies like Amazon, where Jeff Bezos lost about $10 billion before he became profitable. He was the laughing stock of the world. They were like, this guy's just losing money like crazy. Uber had a year. I could have sworn Uber had a year where they lost $8 billion in 1 year. What the hell planet do you live on where you can lose $8 billion and still be in business? But they did. They lost several $1 billion in 1 year. I could have sworn it was 8 billion, but even when I say it, it sounds crazy. I got to look it up again because that number just feels weird coming out of my mouth. So let me research that to be sure. But I know it was some astronomical amount of money. So my point is to say that as you kind of go through this journey and you build your business, and this is the reason I brought up the whole thing with the griot, as we build any kind of entity, whether you're talking about a black-owned news channel or a black-owned university or a black-owned donut shop, I really don't think that it's beneficial for us to simply look at what white people are doing and try to copy that, because they're operating with more resources than we have. They have a different kind of support base than we have. They have a different kind of economic culture than we have, and I wonder if that's what might have really significantly harmed or even killed the griot, because it's quiet as kept. I see other black news channels again, another guy I don't see eye to eye with, but I'll mention Roland Martin. Roland Martin seems to be rolling along and doing pretty well with his platform set up on YouTube, right? Or if you talk about HBCUs and all their struggles, well, in the Black Business School, we have a faculty that's just as qualified as many universities. Our business experts are just as good, if not better. And we're able to do 10 times as much with a budget that's 1/100th of what a lot of regular business schools might need in order to function. So be creative in your business models. Don't think that you need lots of money in order to make things happen. A lot of times, money can be replaced with creativity. In fact, sometimes getting too much money, too much access to money, can make you a little lazy and uncreative and actually cause you financial problems in the long term. They call that the free cash flow problem. That's a whole financial theory. The free cash flow problem is basically where a founder has too much money available, so they start hiring everybody and paying everybody and all this other stuff. And then when something bad happens in the business, they can't sustain themselves because they need the bank to keep loaning the money for them to stay alive, or they were preparing, or they didn't prepare for the fact that their revenues might dip. I talked to a guy who ran. Well, I don't think he minds me talking about this. I hope he doesn't. He was the founder of Bossip, and he's a really great guy named Jamarlin Martin, and I really like him. And one day I flew down to Florida just to kick it with him, and I'd been watching Bossip for many years. I mean, Bossip is literally where Kim Kardashian got her start. Like, Bossip was just like beast mode in terms of blogs back in the golden age of blogs and all that. And he basically was telling me about how he hired a lot of his friends and relatives and people that he knew, and he was paying them a lot more money than they would make anywhere else. They were making, $200,000 a year, and they only had a GED or whatever, because he was really generous and he wanted to make sure all his people were taken care of. And then they had these really. I went to their office one time. They had this really nice office suite in New York City in this beautiful building and everything. And again, because the way my mind works, I'm walking around saying, "Ooh, this is expensive. Y'all must be balling. This is crazy. I wouldn't do this." But anyway, so what happened though was, that I believe that they were thinking, okay, it's only up from here, right? We're making 10 million, 20 million a year. It eventually will be at 50 million and 100 million and all that. And what sometimes I think can happen is that we can get so busy looking up that we forget that there's also a long way down that you forgot about. You forgot that which goes up can still come down. You forgot that what you think might be the beginning of something big might be your actual peak. It may never get any better than this. This may be the most money you ever make for the rest of your life, right? We don't think that way, right? Especially when you're ambitious and you're growing and things are going great. We tend to look upward, right? That's a bias. That's a type of bias, right? And so he said basically that what happened was, and I remember this too. I remember this. The blogs stopped making money. What used to happen was they would you would put these articles out, and if your article got read by say 20,000 people, you would make a really good amount of money. Let's say $50 per thousand people. So you could make like $1,000 for one good article. They got 20,000 reads. So if you're getting hundreds of thousands of reads, it could turn to a lot of money really fast. Well, what happened was that with the ad companies, you had the ad companies over here and the content creators over there, and they realized, wait a minute, we got an oversupply of content creators, and we don't, but not that many opportunities. So what happened was the middleman, the people that connected the advertisers with the bloggers, started increasing their cut. They basically started chopping away at what the bloggers received. So that same article that would have gotten you 30 or $40 per thousand reads is suddenly getting you like 25 cents. So literally the whole business model just collapsed. And a lot of people weren't ready for that. And I know that with Bossip, I know they caused them to have some challenges. And so when it came time to kind of cut back on a lot of that spending, that there was a lot of pushback, right? There's, and what was really interesting is I remember him telling me, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he said that the people that he helped the most were the ones that were the maddest at him when he had to cut their pay. It wasn't like he fired them. He'd say, "Hey, I need, instead of me paying you 200,000, I can only pay you 140." And he would get cussed out and you all kinds of MFers and this Negro, this and blah, blah, blah. And it really, really was almost like traumatizing. And I get it. I totally get it. So ultimately, in general, when you're talking about doing business, I encourage you, when you pursue your business, and some of y'all are business owners in here. How many of y'all have a business? Give me a yes if you have a business. Shout the name of your business. Put it in the chat. Let everybody know what you're doing. I encourage you to do a couple things. One, I think the two C's, the 2C rule. This is the Dr. Boyce 2C rule. Creative and conservative. I think creative and conservative goes a long way for one simple reason. You ain't white. You ain't white. It sucks. I know it makes you sad. Some of y'all are shocked by this, but you're not white. So creative means that Black business models have to get in where they fit in. You got to really figure out, not based on what somebody told you in a book or what you saw on a TV show. You got to go based on what your environment will allow you to do. And then number two, conservatism means that even when times are good, you're always prepared for when times are going to be bad. This is what I call investor vision. This is how investors think. And good investors are always thinking a step ahead. Okay, times are really good now. We're rolling in the money. How do we get ready for when times get bad? Because they're going to get bad. Or also, the investor vision says when times are bad, and everything seems terrible, it's like, oh no, you know what? This too shall pass. So let's get ready for when times are good. Let's go acquire these stocks. Let's go acquire this land while times are bad, because eventually the sun's going to come out and the asset values are going to go up. And that's when we're going to make our money. We just got to hold our nose and hold out through the storm. You understand? So this is what came to mind when it came to the griot. I think that, again, I don't know what's going on with Byron's company. I don't pretend to know. I'm assuming that he's doing quite well. I hope he's doing well. But I'm also assuming that as the CEO, like any other CEO of a big empire like the one he has, he's probably got a big ton of problems to solve. And I think he's fully prepared to solve them. So I wish him and the griot good luck. And I want to make that clear because I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that I think that they're garbage or that they're falling apart. That's not what I believe. I do think it is an interesting business lesson, though, to see them sort of finagle their way through these challenges. Okay. All right. So anyway, guys, before we head out, just a quick reminder, don't forget that if you want to get notified when we meet for morning financial consciousness training, we do this every single day, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're on the text list. You can do that by texting the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Text morning to 87948. And also, if you'd like to get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can go to drboycebooks.com. And also at drboycebooks.com, my wife, who is a therapist and she's a relationship therapist and a full professor of social work. She actually has a whole section on love and money, like financial anxiety, workbooks, and things like that, that can kind of help you to get your money mindset where you want it to be. We don't just believe in giving yourself rah-rah speeches. We believe that working with therapists and actually healing from trauma is critically important. When we created the Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business School, we concluded that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is the number one variable that is blocking our ability to manifest, build wealth, take risks, work together, all the things that you need to do to build a healthy Black economy. It is being blocked by the trauma. When you're full of trauma, trauma kills you, trauma kills your relationships, trauma kills your wealth, trauma affects your decision making, trauma causes self-medication in all kinds of unhealthy ways. And so I encourage you, you got to heal, you got to heal, you got to heal. The more healed you are, the more you can show up as an appropriate teammate for other people. The more healed you are, the more you can make better long-term decisions. The more healed you are, the more you can have the discipline that is required for you to become the person that you know and I know that you are capable of becoming. But to get there, you really got to do the work. So anyway, my wife's website, by the way, is coachingwithdralicia.com. If you want to see what she does, she sees clients and groups and stuff like that. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, if you go to drboycebooks.com, a lot of my wife's workbooks are there. Maybe you can work through it with your family. She actually has a certification in trauma, and that's why I talk about trauma a lot, because when she educated me on it, I learned that I have a lot of trauma. I took the trauma test. It's called the ACEs test, Adverse Childhood Experiences. I brought that out to you guys before. And I was way up on that scale. Almost every question they asked, has this happened to you? Has that happened to you? I said, oh my God, I didn't know how traumatized I was. And what that does is it just affects your ability to make the decisions that you want to make. So I got a therapist and I started working on healing, and I'm still not perfect. It doesn't feel right all the time. You know, the trauma never really goes away completely, but it does improve you as a human being. So I encourage you, improve who you are, and then you're going to attract people who are improved and they are. But Ayana Van Zant, she refers to that as vibrational attraction. She says, whatever frequency you're vibrating on, you're going to attract people that are on that same frequency. So if you're on that negative, whining, complaining, getting mad, going off and being negative, if you're on that negative frequency, you're going to attract people that are on the same frequency. But if you show up positive, uplifting, motivational, focused, driven, aiming for success in a loving way, then you're going to attract other people that are on the same frequency, and you're going to trust each other and build great things. So go out and build. God bless you. I'll see you guys soon. I hope you guys have a great day. And also, don't forget the All Black National Convention is October 25th through the 27th. And so I hope you guys will join us in Chicago. If you'd like to learn more about the convention, there are lots of great people there. Just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's All Black National Convention.